Joining us now is Gene Munster, Deepwater Asset Management managing partner. The Nasdaq's up a lot this month. We were just shocked to hear double digits, Gene. So I don't know what that means. Before we talk about the ones you do like, since it's such a popular issue, the Magnificent Seven, is it too late? Would you buy any of them at this point?
I would, Joe. I think that still you put Google, Meta, Deepwater owns both of those, Apple in that camp. That is a select group, so you don't need to own all of the Magnificent Seven, but I think you should have some exposure. And generally, I think about a tech portfolio as we orient our tech portfolio. We think about a quarter of it is in some of these bigger companies, but there has been a shift and a belief that we have that even though these Magnificent Seven will continue to be steady, continue to be part of most people's and should be part of most people's portfolio, we think performance is going to come from the sub $50 billion market cap companies. These are companies that have been largely forgotten, and I think that we have seen a positive shift in terms of investor and their appetite for this. The Magnificent Seven is up 0.4% over the past week. The NASDAQ up 0.5%. That's rare, just given the weightings, to see the Mag 7 underperform the NASDAQ, albeit fractionally. But more impressive was this sub $50 billion group. And we went back and picked 7 of what were some of the high flyers back in 2021 as kind of a benchmark for what these high growth companies are, these smaller companies. And they're up 3.5% in the past week. And so this is a shift in terms of sentiment. The reason, of course, is that more steady interest rates, just keeping them where they're at, gives investors a little bit of an opportunity to step back and think about owning a broader mix of tech beyond the Mag 7. And so I see this as a real encouraging data point. I would also add is that as I checked my feed this morning, you just, we kind of think about what's happening with Cyber Monday. The one piece I would caution related to this, again, I'm very bullish on these smaller ones, but what we saw with Cyber Monday up 8% or 9% year over year, the consumer still is really strong. And so I think that some of these concerns about interest rates and what they're doing is going to linger. But I think on the margin, 2024 is going to be a year where we're going to see a shift in performance from the Mag 7 to some of these smaller, we'll call it smaller, sub $50 billion market cap companies.
So how many of those, there must be a lot of them. How many have you looked at? How many are there? And I don't know how many you're recommending. And the ones you look back just to test your theory that you look back in 2021, there was no AI back then. Aren't they different? Aren't there some different opportunities now? Aren't there some different names that wouldn't have been as attractive a couple of years ago? So how many are you looking at, and which ones you think we should buy? Okay,
so our short list, we'll call it our watch list, is about 100 different tech companies. And we own about 20 of those. So just to give you a sense about what the scope is. In terms of those 7, is most of them none of them had an AI bid 2 years ago. And that's what I thought was appropriate, was to really take those companies that didn't have the AI bid and look at how they've performed more recently. If we would have selected companies that had more of an AI flavor to them, they would have been up more. And then to answer your other questions, what are those companies that we're excited about? They're companies that probably a lot of people haven't heard of. CrowdStrike, for example, is a $50 billion market cap cybersecurity company, but that's one that we're optimistic about. One company that, another one a lot of people have heard of, obviously, is Etsy. I think what's going on in retail, that stock has rebounded nicely. It's up about 23% in the past month, but that continues to be an opportunity relative to just still an $8 billion market cap. That can be a much bigger company. And so that's the general lines that we're looking at, is companies that will grow faster for longer is our mandate.
All right, so that's 2. Your universe is 100, and you've got 20 that you own. What else?
Other companies, think about Zillow, for example, and what they're doing in terms of kind of changing how we're doing real estate. Their next version of their app, I think, is going to bring in more metadata. I think they will have an opportunity. Palantir is another company that we own that has an AI bid to it. So, they've obviously done a lot. And then we're also investing, when I think about that list too, we do invest in both private and public companies. And so on the private side, there's Redwood Materials. This was founded by J.B. Strobel, one of the founders of Tesla, their battery component manufacturing company, and then Anduril, which does defense tech. And so our portfolio is comprised of both public and private. It's a hybrid fund. So those would be 5 companies that we're excited about.
Did you mentioned Tesla? But you didn't mention it when you were talking about the Magnificent Seven. What do you got, like a hold on that?
Yeah, I think Tesla's one that's going to continue to do well. I think what we're going to see with Cybertruck here is it's going to be announced the handoff event, the delivery events on Thursday afternoon. And I think that's really going to stoke investor optimism around this. So I am optimistic on Tesla. The reason why I don't mention it as one of those 5 is because I don't see it having a 2 or 3x upside opportunity over the next year. And that's the kind of goal that we're shooting for, these companies that have more significant upside. But I just want to quickly focus in on Tesla because I think that this is an important week for the company. Cybertruck, I want to caution, isn't going to have a big impact to numbers over the next few years. It's going to take time for them to ramp up manufacturing. But I think from an expansion to multiple perspective, I think this is going to be an important event. They're now showing the Cybertruck at 15 Tesla retail stores, and people are lining up to see this car. This is exactly what we saw when they originally were showing off the Model 3, and I think that investors largely did not appreciate this pent-up demand piece are not appreciating this. And so I think that to answer your question specific to Tesla, I think that the stock is going to move higher in the next week as we start to see Cybertrucks in the real world. And investors are reminded that Tesla is doing something, is being more aggressive in terms of how they're pursuing the future relative to other car makers.
You don't think that any of the other Magnificent Seven that you like are going to be 2x or 3x. You're talking about the sub 50 billion or
right.
The 2x and 3x. Okay.
We orient our portfolio to be more focused on some of these sub 50 $50 billion.
I meant the law of large numbers. None of the Magnificent Seven are going to be 2x or 3x.
That is correct, but we don't want to be all Mag 7 for our portfolio, and so we just limit the number that we can have. In our case, it's Google and Meta.